Hi, I'm Chloe Rosen, and today I'm making a classic cherry pie. So we have taken 1.5 sticks of butter that we've cut up into a small dice, and we've put it in the refrigerator. And you want to handle your butter as least as possible, so we're going to do this in the food processor. So you're going to take 2 cups of flour first. You're going to add this to your mixer. And to this you're going to add 1 tablespoon of sugar. And if you were making a pie dough for a savory pie, you could, you're not going to put in the sugar because it's not a sweet pie, but because we're putting cherries in it and it's going to be nice and sweet, we're going to put in some sugar. And you're going to put in a large pinch of just normal table salt. And we're just going to go ahead and pulse this once to incorporate the flour. There we go. Now we're going to put in all of our cold butter. Just add that right in. And you shouldn't be using frozen butter. It should be just, I like to keep it in the refrigerator overnight before I cut it up and put it back in the refrigerator. And we're just going to put this down and pulse it a few times. And you want to pulse it until it's about, the little butter pieces are about the size of small peas. But you don't want to pulverize it. And that should be good. Okay, so now we're going to put ice water in. And for this, you want to put it in tablespoon by tablespoon because it's going to depend on the day you're making it for how much water you're going to need to use for your pie crust. So you're just going to turn the mixture on and tablespoon by tablespoon, just going to put water in. And normally it should be about 6, and it can be a little more, a little less, but you just want to wait a little bit and see. And what we're looking for is for the pie crust to come away from the side and make a sort of ball. We're almost there. I think one more should do it. And one more. And you can see it's kind of coming away and making a ball, so we're going to turn this off. It's perfect. So we're going to roll it, we're not going to roll it out, but we're going to make it into a ball and put it in the refrigerator to refrigerate while we make our filling. So just going to take it out. I'm going to sprinkle a little bit of flour on your surface here so it doesn't stick. And also, if you didn't get the consistency exactly right when you were making it in the food processor, you can add a little bit more flour here if you want to. If it was a little bit too sticky, just add a little more flour. You just want to get it together a little bit with your hands, make it into a little ball. And that's perfect. Take some plastic wrap. Just going to wrap our ball in some plastic wrap. And we're going to go put it in the refrigerator to chill while we make our filling. All right, so now it's time to make our filling for the cherry pie while our dough chills. So my favorite time to make this pie is during cherry season. And I know because of the way our supermarkets work today, you can get cherries at any time of the year. But they're definitely the best during cherry season. So I like to use all fresh cherries, but I still love the taste, that sour taste that you get from sour cherries that are pretty hard to find. So we're going to make a little bit of a syrup to use with our fresh cherries, with our sour cherries. So you're going to take 1 can of sour cherries just from your supermarket, and you're going to pour it with its preserving liquid into a saucepan. Now you're going to take 1.5 teaspoons of sugar, just a little bit of sugar to help it thicken up a little bit into a nice syrup. We're going to turn our pan onto medium-high. We're just going to cook this together for about 15 minutes. And then the liquid should condense a little bit, and then we'll strain it out. And you can see, just as we've done here, you get this kind of delicious concentrated sour cherry flavor that we're going to use with our pitted cherries. So, to pit cherries, you know probably if you made cherry pie before, it's pretty hard to pit all the cherries because you either have to cut them in half and pull the pit out, or you can buy one of these little contraptions, which is a cherry pitter. And even with one of these, it takes a while, so maybe if you're going to make a cherry pie, you can have like a little cherry pie pitting party before, so everybody can come over and you can pit cherries together. So just to show you how this works, you take the cherry, you take its stem off, you place the cherry right in the bowl of this little contraption, and you just snap it down, and out comes the pit right there. So after you're done pitting all of your cherries, you just want to slice them in half like I've done. And you know, it's not a perfect process with the cherry pitter, so while you slice them in half, you can see if you missed any of the pits. First, we're going to add 4 tablespoons of cornstarch. And that might seem like a lot, but we are adding a lot of liquid, so you want it to be very cohesive and you don't want it to be too runny. So next we're going to add our orange juice, which is just 2 tablespoons. You can just use the orange juice you drink for breakfast. Just add that in. And we also have 3½ tablespoons of fresh squeezed lemon juice. We're just going to put that in. Perfect. We have a large pinch of salt. We are gonna put in some of that delicious juice that we already extracted from our sour cherries. So we're gonna put in 3 tablespoons of that juice, as well as a ½ teaspoon of vanilla. And you want to use Tahitian vanilla, and the reason I specify is that Tahitian vanilla is quite well known for its kind of cherry taste, so it really accentuates the cherries quite nicely, and it's just really good with that. And we have a ½ cup of sugar. You can add right in there. So now you're going to stir it all up. It should be nice and combined. So once this is all incorporated and you don't see any more globs of cornstarch or anything, we're going to roll out our dough and then add our filling and finish our cherry pie. Alright, so we just finished our cherry pie filling and now we're going to roll out our dough. So this is half of our dough and the other half is in our refrigerator still chilling because you want it to be as cold as possible because then it's a lot easier to roll out. So we're just going to roll this out until it's about 1/8 of an inch thick. And then we're going to put it in our pie pan. And when you're rolling, you want to be moving the dough a lot so that it never is sticking. You want to try to roll evenly in all directions so that it stays nice and round. Alright, so that looks just about perfect. And to put it in our pie pan, you can just use a little trick. Pull the dough a little bit over your rolling pin and roll it all up nice and lightly. And lift it over and roll it back over. You don't want to stretch your pie dough because when in the oven it will contract to where it was originally and ruin all your beautiful lattice work. So you just want to ease it in a little bit. And that looks great. We're going to go get our other half of our pie dough and start with our lattice work. Alright, so we just rolled out our second half of the chilled dough. And just like we did the first half. And now we're going to take, I think this is just called a meat fork. And you could just find it in your kitchen or you could go out and purchase one. And it's really great for marking where you're going to cut your lattice. So I just like to drag it lightly across the top. So you can just make a little mark, then where you left off, and just kind of make little marks to tell yourself. And I know it's not a perfect circle, but because you're going to put it over a circle too, it doesn't need to be the longest length all the time. So we're going to use all of, or most of these, even if they're shorter. So we're just going to finish our markings right over here. And now we're going to take this, and this is called just a pastry cutter, a pastry wheel. And this is a fluted one, so it makes it look really, really festive. And you could just find this at a local store, and you can use it for a lot of stuff. So now we're just going to take this and pull it, try to make it nice and straight, right across your dough. And the first time, it doesn't need to be perfectly horizontal or anything, but you just want to make all of them parallel to that first one. And depending on the meat prong you're using, it might not be exactly perfectly spaced, so you can just kind of alter the spacing yourself when you're doing this step. And in the end, we're going to want Depends on how thick you make your lattice pieces, and it also depends on how big your pie plate is. But I think we're gonna want about 8 to 10 of our lattice strips. And I'm just gonna do this last one, and this is a great tool to buy. It's really inexpensive, and you can also use it for other stuff like ravioli and other things that you might need a rolling fluted edge for. All right, so now once you've rolled out all of your dough and gotten all your strips cut, you don't want to add the filling into your bottom pie crust until the last moment because it might get very soggy or something like that. And also you want it to have time to thicken up a little bit. So now we're going to add our nice cherry pie filling to our pie plate. And knowing how to make a lattice work pie is just a great skill to know. Sounds kind of intimidating, but it's really, really not once you know how to do it, because you can do it for any pie. You could do it an apple latticework pie, a blueberry latticework pie. You could just do a lot of different variations on this recipe. So now we're going to start. You want to start with 4 of your longest strips. I'm just going to lay those. You want to leave, when you're doing lattice, you want to leave some space in between each of the strips, because then you can see that it's a cherry pie and it looks really pretty. So we're going to put these 4 strips right on, evenly space them. You might need to alter it a little bit. Here we go, and our last one. All right, so if you're looking at this, you see 1, 2, 3, 4. So you want to think of this one as 1, and this one as 3, this one as 2, and this one as 4. So you think of even and odds. So first, you're going to take the 2 odd ones and pull them back a little bit more than halfway. Now you're going to take one of your strips and think about, out of your pie, you know the middle part is going to be the longest to put a strip on. So you want to try to think about using your strips in a way that you can use all of them and still cover the pie well. So once you lay the strip across right where you folded them back, you're going to refold them right where they used to be. So then you see your perfect first one. So now, to get the alternating look, you're going to pull the 2 even ones back. You want to pull them back a little less than you did those so that you can leave a little bit of space for those nice cherries. I'm going to put our next one in right there. And perfect. So now you're going to rotate your pie 180 degrees so it's facing the other way. And we're going to start with our 2 other strips. So we're going to peel back 1 and 3. We're going to peel back 1 and 3 again. And this might have been the other 2, but now that you're rotating, you can rename them. And lay your strip across and peel them back. And it really depends on the shape of your pie plate, but I think this is going to do it for ours. And so now we're going to crimp our pie. All right, so once you're done with all of your lattice, you're going to just cut off the excess like I did right here. And you just want to leave about 1 inch hanging past the lip of the pan. And you're just going to roll it back just like I did, and it looks really messy right now, but we're going to crimp it so it looks really nice and professional. So the way I like to crimp it, there are a lot of different ways, and everybody kind of has their way. But I like to make a V with my fingers and put it all along the outside, and then just kind of crimp it like this, so you get a nice little swirl. And you can do this, and because of this cool pie plate that kind of goes like this with the edges, it's really easy to crimp because you can just crimp every time it goes down or every time it goes up, so you have a nice even spacing. So now we're just going to do a few more around the pie. Going to rotate a little bit. All right, so we're just going to finish our last little crimped one, and it doesn't have to look perfect because you want people to know that it's homemade. So now we're going to brush it with a little egg wash, and it's just 1 egg that I've lightly beaten with about 2 tablespoons of water. Just going to lightly brush it, and this gives it great golden color, and it gets nice and beautifully brown. And that looks perfect. So now we're just going to take a little bit of sugar and sprinkle it over, get nice and crispy just over the top there. And I think that's perfect. So we preheated our oven to 425, and right before we put our pie in, we're going to reduce it to 375. So right when you put it in, it's going to be a little hotter, but as it bakes, the oven will get a little cooler and it will be perfect. So we're going to cook it for about 25 to 30 minutes until it's nice and browned and very bubbly. And if the edges start to cook a little bit too fast, you can just take a large piece of tin foil and like kind of cover that part and leave the bottom, the middle to cook. So it will work out just great and we'll have a delicious pie. So let's go put it in. Alright, so this just came out of the oven. Looks really bubbly, really brown, really delicious. And I really hope you try this at home. It's really easy. Don't be afraid of the lattice. And I'm going to go bring this to my friend's house. Everybody's going to love it. Enjoy.